They believed printing money was the solution, and it ended in disaster. An entire country convinced it could create wealth just by turning on the printing press. At first it seemed like magic. New banknotes, higher wages, markets full of paper. But soon that illusion turned into a nightmare. The economy collapsed, hunger spread, and the country that sought to save itself ended up disappearing. Today we're going to tell the story of the most extreme hyperinflation. A reminder that money is not created with ink but with real value. It all started with a crisis. As is often the case, the country was facing unpayable debts, massive unemployment, and a broken economy. The government had two options: face austerity or find a quick way out. It chose the latter. The idea seemed logical, almost childish in its simplicity. If there isn't enough money, let's print more. Why suffer shortages when just printing new banknotes is enough? Why endure poverty when you can multiply wealth with paper and ink? Political leaders sold the measure as an act of social justice. The people need money, and we're going to give it to them. The people, fed up with unfulfilled promises, applauded. For the first time in a long time, wages were rising, pockets were filling, and the streets felt alive. A worker who had previously earned just enough to survive now received wads of bills. A teacher saw how her salary, doubled overnight, allowed her to buy what had previously seemed impossible. The markets were filled with buyers and consumption exploded. It was a perfect mirage. The printing press seemed like a magic wand capable of healing the wounds of the economy. But what no one wanted to see was the fine print of that magic, because making banknotes isn't the same as making value. And the difference, sooner or later, is paid for. The country believed it had found the recipe for prosperity. In reality, it had opened the door to collapse. The first few months were euphoric. The government boasted of an economic miracle. Politicians appeared on television showing off wads of new bills, promising that abundance was here to stay. The people believed it, merchants saw their cash registers full, workers received higher wages, and banks were overflowing with deposits. The international press spoke of the revolutionary economic model. But the first cracks were soon to appear. When money multiplies without backing, prices inevitably rise. A kilo of bread that cost 1 bill now cost 3, and within weeks it cost 10. The government responded by printing even more money, convinced that it was thereby adjusting people's purchasing power. It was a mad dash. Each wage increase was swallowed up in a matter of days by an even greater price increase. A housewife went to the market with a wad of bills to buy meat, and returned with just a few vegetables. A young man who dreamed of saving for a car saw his savings, which seemed substantial on paper, dwindle to nothing in the face of rampant inflation. Soon, the entire country realized what was happening. There was plenty of money, but it was no longer worth anything. At first, everyone was a millionaire. Then everyone was poor with wheelbarrows of useless bills. What followed was a terrifying phenomenon: hyperinflation. Prices no longer rose monthly or weekly, they rose hourly. A bill could buy bread in the morning, but by afternoon it wouldn't even buy an egg. The scenes on the streets looked like something out of a surreal nightmare. People carrying wheelbarrows full of money to buy a single product. Merchants changing prices several times a day, writing them in chalk on blackboards because it wasn't even worth printing labels. And although many view these examples from a distance, the question remains: what would you do if one day you woke up and your money was worthless? Leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think this mistake could be repeated in your country? Subscribe to discover more stories the world prefers to forget.